Hello, everyone. Uh, This is the evening for the Urbana Community Development Commission meeting. But prior to the meeting, we're going to have a public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the public to provide input and comments regarding the proposed amendment to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2013-14. A reduction to the City of Urbana Housing Rehabilitation Program in the amount of $112,000 is proposed to allow for a demolition slash new construction project at 301 Thompson Street in Urbana, as well as to commit additional funds to Community Elements TBRA program. Notice of this public hearing was placed in the city's website on May 14, 2014, and was faxed, mailed, and emailed to the media and various social service agencies and citizens. I now declare this public hearing open. If anyone desires to express their views regarding the proposed amendment to the Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2013-14, please come forward and be recognized. Would you like to make a comment about that? Okay. All right. Let's see. Since there are no comments presented at this time, I now declare the public hearing closed. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, we don't have enough for a quorum for our meeting yet, so I guess we will wait a few more minutes. I guess we'll start our Community Development Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. And next is roll call.
Fred Cobb.
Here.
Janice Bankston.
Here.
Chris Diana.
Here.
George Francis. Jerry Moreland. Lisa Beth Searing. Ann Hines Silvis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, next is approval of the minutes, minutes from April 22nd, 2014, our regular meeting. So we'll take a moment to review those, after which I'll entertain a motion for approval or modifications. Okay, I think we've had sufficient time to review the minutes. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Any comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes stand approved as written. Next on our agenda is this section we called petitions and communications. This is the time when those in the audience who would like to bring something to our attention, now is the time to do it. So those of you in the audience, you have anything? Okay. Next, we'll move on to staff report.
Okay, I'll just point out a few things. One, we received a notice from HUD regarding our home program funds commitment deadline. We've also received email notices from HUD regarding upcoming trainings, environmental review training and a home basics training. And I believe we have staff attending the environmental review training. We also had staff that represented the city at the housing fair on May 3rd at the Lincoln Square Mall. It was sponsored by the Community Reinvestment Group. And our neighborhood cleanup was on Saturday, May 17th. So those are the
Okay.
highlights. So
Any questions on staff report? If not, thank you very much, and we'll move on. Old business, we have nothing under the category of old business, so we'll move on to new business. Under new business, we've got a resolution approving modifications to the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium for fiscal year 2013-14 Annual Action Plan, Thompson Community Elements. Let's see, we've got, what else? Habitat. And you want to address those as a group together?
I can take the first one, the amendment, on
Okay.
its own, and then I'll take the next three together, and then we'll do the transfers together if that's the desire of the commission.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, I can jump in then, unless you're ready. Okay. So the amendment that we're proposing to the fiscal year 2013-2014 annual action plan is, was kind of spurred on by an application that we received from Habitat for Humanity. They are looking to build 4 new homes in the community, 1 in Champaign and 3 in Urbana. One of the lots that was selected specifically by one of those families that was qualified is at 301 East Thompson Street in Urbana. It's actually a double lot. We acquired it a couple of years ago, I think in 2012, for a pretty measly sum of money. It was like $7,000. The building that's there is severely dilapidated. It was an old church that was no longer in use. Anyway, so one of those lots was selected by a Habitat home buyer, and we have lacked the community development block grant funds to demolish it. That's why the structure is still standing as it is. Normally, we would demolish it before the Chodo ever desires to build on it. So this was kind of a unique circumstance because there's asbestos in the building. We knew that the demo was going to be significantly more than what we were accustomed to spending on our demo projects. So that said, based on the amount of funding that was available for the construction of the 4 homes, and knowing that 301 Thompson is actually a double lot, and we wanted to demo it, we've proposed the amendment which will allow all 4 homes to be constructed by Habitat, one of which is going to be funded by Urbana if the amendment's approved. So it'll allow for $40,000 of home funds to be spent towards the demolition, and then an additional $40,000, which is in line with the usual subsidy we've been providing to Habitat to help with the construction financing to get the house built. So that is one portion of the amendment itself. The second portion is a proposed tenant-based rental assistance contract. We would like to augment the Community Elements contract for TBRA. They're already running a program. It's going really well. I've really liked their work so far, and they've been really timely with all their invoices and their quarterly reports, all of that. But they're currently the only entity out of the 3 that are currently running programs that doesn't receive regular annual funding. They don't really have another source other than what we give them on a case-by-case basis. So it seemed like a good idea, since TBRA is kind of that one activity we're able to do that really targets the lowest of the low-income households. And we wanted to kind of augment what they're doing and extend their program out for another year. So based on the 2 contracts that they have right now, it will expire in 2016. This amendment that we've proposed will allow them to carry forward that program for another year, which will terminate in June of 2017. So I think that's basically the gist of the amendment, and then some of the other things, related to the Chodo contracts. I can kind of get to that in the next memo, unless there are
Okay.
specific questions now. Whatever works.
Any questions? I was wondering, the money that's being diverted, what's the effect of that?
Yes. And did you see I added a section? It's called programmatic impacts. So based on
Yeah, oh, yeah, I
actually
did
some of
see
your
that, yeah.
feedback in the last, I guess it was 2 meetings ago, you had asked for both the fiscal and programmatic. So what this will do is it will reduce the owner-occupied housing rehab funds that we have in that particular fiscal year by $112,000, which sounds like a lot of money. But over the last few years, and I believe I detailed it in the memo, yeah, we've received $103,000 and change in program income since 2011, 2012. Based on that, that's actually hard to keep up with, because those are funds that you really can't anticipate. You expect you'll get some, but you never know how much you'll get. So within the last year, we received $60,000, which is far and away more than we're accustomed to receiving. Anyways, we're still anticipating that we'll be able to carry out the typical 5 to 7 whole house rehabs each year. Our only kind of hurdle right now is actually finding applicants. We included that in our latest neighborhood newsletter as kind of an advertisement, but our waiting list has kind of dwindled down. So we're working on kind of targeting our marketing, because it is sort of a specific subset that we serve. Because we do put the $12,500 lien on a house, some of the older generation aren't interested in adding debt to their household, knowing that they're going to want to pass it on to their children. So anyway, so we're kind of considering things programmatically, what that's going to, how, we could possibly restructure the whole house program. Anyways, that's kind of tangential. Overall, it will reduce that particular fiscal year of the whole house funds that are available, but we have sufficient carryover that we know we'll still be able to move forward with the program at the pace we've been at over.
Okay, I was
last
just
few years.
wondering if anything that was scheduled had to be unscheduled.
I don't know if I follow. Can you clarify for me?
Like if someone had applied for rehab and you
you
told
mean
them
would it
no
delay-
because we had to use the money for this.
Okay. Well, as far as I know, in speaking with Randy Burgett, our rehab coordinator, there are no projects that are kind of in the hopper. So we're actually still at a place where we're looking for applicants. We haven't signed any contracts yet.
Okay.
So, and we are processing a few more applications. We've been working on them this week. So but it still takes a good month, for people to review the program, really understand the guidelines, what's expected, and we don't sign contracts with people for a while. So I would expect that the demo portion will not delay what we're already doing with Whole House. I think Randy's workload is okay in that respect. And also the new construction financing that we're giving, that's all part of the Chodo contract. It's not actually going to be a subrecipient activity. So the way new construction can happen in 2 different ways. Either the city of Urbana could basically hire a contractor to build a house for the city, and we would kind of be the owner of the project. In that case, it would take a lot of my staff time because I'd have to be managing the project. Or the more typical model we use is we allow the Chodo to do it. They run with it. They already have the construction manager. They do everything. So all we're doing is kind of providing some of the financing. So in terms of staff, labor, or even delays and other things that we're doing, I don't foresee any issues there. But that is a good question.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, we got.
Just one question. In the programmatic impacts, it mentions that some consideration was given to augmenting the Urbana Dream down payment. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes. So when we started the Urbana Dream program, I believe we hit the ground running in May of last year. It was really successful. We spent all of our money basically within about 7 months. It was awesome. The problem with that is, while we started the program in May, I didn't actually start doing closings or anything until around like maybe August, September. It was kind of odd because I was really expecting to grab some of that spring homebuyer market, but it didn't work out that way. So I kind of describe those commitments as soft commitments, because you say, you earmark the funds, you say, okay, we're going to spend it on this particular activity, but until those mortgages are executed and those houses are sold, you don't actually have an agreement with the buyer until everything's set in stone. So while I may set aside $100,000 for my Urbana Dream, until I have 10 homes, 12 homes sold, only as those homes are purchased are commitments actually made. And that's how the federal accounting system works. And it's also just how the regulations work. You need to have an actual agreement in place. Most of the time with our Urbana Dream activities, it's about a month from the time somebody applies to the time somebody closes. It's really quick. It's impressive. So for us to sign an agreement at the beginning of the month just to get the commitment actually isn't even worth anybody's time if it's just a matter of 30 days anyways, that you have that viable commitment. So anyways, I'm lengthy today, I'm sorry.
No, okay.
We did consider it. I really like the Urbana Dream program. I think it's been really great so far, and it's helped a lot of new, first-time home buyers. But unfortunately, in terms of the commitment shortfall we're facing, it's not a fast enough or quote-unquote hard commitment for us to propose, given the timeline that we're at, which we are working. We've actually been getting better and better. And I should really crunch the numbers on this, because I'd be curious to see about kind of closing that gap on commitments so that we don't have to make these quick decisions in the future. It's involved a lot of reconciliation with HUD and going through all the numbers and figuring out, okay, what are we missing here, and trying to match up the city's budget with the federal budget that's in the accounting system. So we're getting closer. We're making little baby steps, but I think next year should be the year that I don't have to come to you with an amendment. We will have a party.
There you go. Yeah, I think you're probably always going to see that time lag on those, because while the PCUC may take 30 days, there's normally anywhere from 60 to 90 or 120 days in front of that. That's why you see that time lag, because usually I'm sorry. Yeah, the people who are normally buying under that will have been out looking. They'll have been pre-qualified, but they're not pre-qualified with the Urbana Dream program as part of it. So then they look for a house, they find one, they determine if it qualifies. The rest of their financing and so forth moves forward, and then you get your piece. So you were getting the spring shoppers. You just don't get the deals to close until July or August, because it actually, from a real estate end, it takes a long time for that program, not a short time. All of them do, the Champaign ones and so forth. So I don't think you're ever going to get away from that. I would just mention that it's unfortunate if we're going to not have as much funds there, because that helps. Right now, Urbana is not the most attractive place in the Tri-City area to be buying, and that certainly helps the atmosphere some if it does. So hopefully we won't see that slow down.
Yeah, we definitely haven't forgotten about it by any means. We still have that outstanding grant that we got from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago. I actually haven't been able to process a loan there yet, and I think that's because the state came out with that very attractive Welcome Home Illinois program. So it's a lot easier and quicker to acquire those funds than it is to deal with all of my stuff, is kind of what I'm hearing. So until those funds run out, Down Payment Plus is another one.
Yeah.
They're not really kind of biting at my program.
Yeah, there's some over there, especially if you're still doing the vacant home program, where you can double stack those in
Yes.
Champaign, where you can't do that.
Yeah, in Champaign specifically. Yeah. So, but we are actually planning on applying for another round of Federal Home Loan Bank funds. So
Good.
we have $100,000 available now between FHLB and Home with the contract that we're under. And I believe the application due date is June 20th this year, and those funds won't come till, the next year. So, I kind of have faith in Busey Bank, our sponsor, that they'll be able to move the program quickly, and we'll hopefully get that second application approved.
Good, that's good. Thank you.
Now, those funds cannot be tapped into by the city of Urbana to use anything other than what they designated.
The home funds in the amendment, or the
CDC
FHLB?
funds.
Oh, CDBG?
The money that community development.
Oh. Yes, so these all have, they have many strings attached, so the city can't,
So they
Mhm.
can't be used elsewhere.
correct.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we have three options. We can forward the resolution with a recommendation for approval to the city council. We can forward it with suggested changes, or we can disapprove this resolution. So what's the pleasure of the commission? Someone make a motion?
I move we forward the resolution to council with a recommendation for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward the resolution to city council with a recommendation for approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, next, resolution certifying Community Housing Development Organization for the Urbana Home Consortium for 2014-2015 habitat. Would you like to explain that?
Yeah, so I'll actually talk about, I guess, the next three resolutions that are on the agenda, the certification, the program agreement, the developer agreement, and then the operating all at once. So this is in connection with the Habitat for Humanity Chodo project funding application that we received at the beginning of this month. The Home Technical Committee has agreed to contract out basically all remaining Chodo funds to Habitat to construct 4 of the homes that are proposed. So the addresses, and I already talked about one, is 301 Thompson. When that lot, which I mentioned was a double lot, is split into its original plat, it will become 301 Thompson and 303 Thompson. So second buyer has been identified for 303 Thompson. And then 1205 Beslin, that was actually a lot that we had tried to transfer to Urbana, and then the buyer fell through last minute. That's why that's on here again. It might sound familiar. And then the other lot, the fourth one, is in Champaign at 1304 Walnut. So I've listed, I guess, on the second page of the memo, the way that the project funding would break down. The 40,000 there is, that's the Urbana money. And then the 39,425 and change is basically the sum of all of our Chodo funds that are available. We had a little bit left over when Homestead finished their 1107 North Gregory project. They had about $6,000 left over, a little less than that. And so that was tied together with the fiscal year, or sorry, did I say 1230? No, that was 1314 funds. And then we're allocating the bulk of the 1415 funds that were passed with the latest publication of the annual action plan for the construction of those homes. And then also recommended is the $28,000 operating contract. This is in keeping with that $7,000 per unit rate we had come up with. It kind of serves as a developer fee in some sense, but it's just it goes towards the overhead rather that the Chodos kind of have to deal with when they're filling out all of our reports and meeting our extra federal regulations, and that would be in keeping again with what we've historically done with them as a Chodo. So this will also help us with our shortfall that we're seeing in terms of commitments that we need to do. But I'm excited. Habitat's moved so quickly on all of their projects. I mean, I can barely monitor them as quickly as they're being built and sold. So we have full faith that they will be able to do these 4 in the next year. I actually just went to a couple of different closings for the one at 810 East Park. That's in Urbana. We closed on that one. The head dedication for that one was great, too. And then 1007 North Berkeley was the other one. So they completed those. The other 2, one of them, I guess, is tied up in a bit of a land survey dispute. So they're trying to figure out where the lot line is. So that's the only reason that one's been held up. And the other one has started construction. And I talked to Sheila a week ago. The foundation was in. The walls were going up. By now, it probably has a roof, and it's halfway done. So.
Jen, I'm looking at the certification. I thought Habitat was a Chodo long before 2011.
No, we had done some builds with them. It was called a home buyer blitz, and that was the scenario I was talking about where Habitat was acting as a sub-recipient. So Urbana staff were, kind of managing the project, and they were the ones doing the construction.
The way they used to be structured before.
Okay. I remember that.
We heard anything from Homestead lately? Or?
I have spoken with Aaron Smith, the executive director. He has not identified any qualified buyers, so he wasn't planning on submitting an application. They are also still working with Brinshore to secure financing for the Kerr Avenue project. So I think that's kind of what they're favoring right now. They really liked, at least I know Aaron really enjoyed the Crystal View development, so they're really hoping they could acquire the low-income housing tax credits to move forward with that, which is kind of tough right now. The market's tight, and IDA's being stingy with their funds, because we actually have a lot of projects going on. So I shouldn't say they're being stingy, they're being wise, because we have several different tax credit projects that are happening all at the same time. So they're waiting till those kind of finish out to avoid flooding the market, I guess.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just curiosity, I'm sure that it has been figured out, but those lots on Thompson, how are they gonna get a Habitat house on those? Those are only like about 60 feet wide, those things.
They are, and actually, I believe we've dealt with lots that are even smaller than that. So they're 60 by 100.
Yeah.
Essentially is what they come out to. There are two houses, I think it was on Beslin Street. They're kind of shotgun houses. So they,
Right.
they changed the way that the houses are faced. And with the setbacks and everything, I will have to wait.
So they're
see
still
if-
okay, they don't have to do a shared driveway or anything to squeeze them in?
Not that I know of. I would have to talk to building safety.
Okay.
But if you're curious, I can definitely forward
I was
that
just,
on.
I was just curious because, if
That is,
all the Habitat ones need to be standalone, their own lot, their own, I'm not even sure they could do a shared driveway on theirs the way they set them up.
Yeah, no,
But-
I don't think so. I think since they're dealing with the corner lot, that probably makes it a little easier with the driveways. Would be my
Probably, they
guess.
might have changed the approach on one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, I'm sure they have it laid out. I was just curious, because I know those are awful skinny lots over there, so, yeah.
I just had that one second.
Okay. Under programmatic impacts, I noticed that you say the good far outweighs the negative, and there would be a minor reduction in the consortium's overall grant pool. Is that? That's
Yeah,
about it?
that's talking about, so the Choto operating funds, that's a 5% set aside. It's
Mhm.
technically not required under the regulations. It's highly encouraged by
Oh,
by
it's not
HUD,
required.
because they want Chotos to be able to stand on their own 2 feet.
Mhm.
They know that it costs money to run an organization like this that's undertaking these sorts of activities. So we've historically always set aside the 5%, and then we allocate it whenever projects like these come through and applications come in. And we set up that $7,000 per unit subsidy in an effort to kind of encourage the Chotos to construct more. Because it was just a more logical means of structuring how we gave out money, I guess, when, the number of Chotos we had changed all the time. So how do you really justify a certain amount of money based on, what you're getting? So this way it's kind of tied to what you're producing. But yeah, there is always an option, and this may come up. We're not sure. We're still discussing it in the Home Technical Committee. If there's enough of a carryover of operating, we could reallocate it. So the way it would work is it would just fall back into the larger consortia pool, and it would split up based on everyone's prorated share. So Champaign would probably get a little more than 15,000. There's like 30,000 left right now, I think. That's carryover. So Champaign would get 15 or 16. We would get a cut of that, and the county would get a cut. But that is not a whole lot of money compared to the impact that you can have if you're able to pay an extra staff person or that kind of thing, or find somebody more highly qualified, more skilled, given how much they're really producing as a construction manager. So that's why we've always said err on the side of caution, make sure we can get our Chotos to stand on their own 2 feet and set aside that admin or the operating.
Okay. Any further questions? Not, we have the same three options. We could forward to City Council with a recommendation for approval, or suggest changes, or not recommend. Is there a motion?
I move that we forward with approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward the resolution to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, the next three items are concerning the sale of real estate. Would you like to group those?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. So you'll notice that we are deeding over 301 and 303 East Thompson after they've been split. So we're not giving Habitat 301 since we're doing the demolition ourselves. So not with Public Works, but we'll subcontract that out. So that's why that's split up the way it is, just for clarification purposes.
Okay. Would you like to give us more on the sale?
Sure. So we will, after we've completed the demolition for 301, the lots will be split into the original parcels. It's already been platted that way, so we don't have to take it to Plan Commission or anything like that. All we have to do is have the county assign separate pins to it, since it's been combined under one tax pin.
How long does that take?
Actually, they only do it about once a year, so it won't happen until September, which is interesting. But it has something to do with the different programs they manage, and they have like a whole mapping system. So it's all very complicated. They try to do it as infrequently as possible. And so what usually happens is I will prepare all the documents. You have the warranty deed, the quitclaim deed, the settlement sheet, and the sales contract. I will get all those executed. I'll have the executive director sign everything, and then I have it all approved by the legal division as well. So, but yeah, we sell them for $1. It's basically a donation is what it comes down to. So there's no reason to make the lot cost any more than it already has. There's no reason to burden the nonprofit. So that's why we tend to do that donation instead of actually selling them. And technically, I don't think we could sell them because then we'd be reimbursing ourselves for funds that were originally grant allocations. So we really have to donate them more than we could sell them. So, but yeah, I think that's the gist of it. If there's other specific questions, we do the quitclaim deed in the rare occurrence, which has only happened once, that a project totally falls through, the developer's not going to move forward. It's just a quick way for us to take back the property without having to come back here and make a big fuss about it. And it also protects the city in that, if a developer were to start construction on the lot and then something catastrophic happens and they're not intending to finish it at all, in that case, we could pay them for the quote-unquote improvements they've made to the property and then take it back. So that's kind of how that goes in line. I've only ever had to use that once. I think it was on, and I don't even know if I was the one who used it, but it was when Ecolab was originally going to build on 901 Division, and then I don't remember the history because I really don't think I was the one that was around. We ended up taking it back because they didn't even touch it. The project fell through completely, and they went with a different lot. So that ended up being a Habitat house, if you might recall. That was, I think, the first Habitat house that was built with Chodo funds, actually.
Okay. Any more questions, comments?
A question without getting too far into the weeds here, but we probably will, and there are weeds there too. Since the resolution we just passed is referring to those as two separate lots, and therefore they would be funded and done that way, if they're not actually going to be two separate lots until after the demolition, then one or the other probably needs to be changed, because you aren't transferring 301 and 303 to Habitat until they're 301 and 303.
True.
Okay.
I don't know if I see the problem yet.
Well, if it's a date to have this funding in place, and you have a resolution saying that you are transferring two pieces of property that don't exist.
Well, they do and they don't.
No,
okay,
you'll be transferring them by PIN numbers, and they can do those PIN numbers for you in about a week.
Okay, no, I think
Yeah.
I think what you're getting at is, we won't actually sign any of the transfer documents for 301 and 303 until after the demo's completed.
Right, but you'll be referring to them in this document. When you set up the documents with Habitat, won't you be referring to specific
Oh,
addresses
yes,
and
we
parcels?
have to list the
But what I'm
addresses.
saying is, there is no 303 until they assign a PIN number to it and call it that address. It's one of those technical
Well,
things, but.
I don't
yeah.
know. That would actually, that would almost be a planning question, because the original
Yeah.
plat exists. The only thing that they did to combine the lots was get a new PIN assigned.
Right.
And we ran into this once before with 1409 and 1411 West Beach Street. Those were the two houses that Habitat built not too long ago. It was formerly 1006 North Wright.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know if I see, I still don't know if I see the conflict there.
Okay, I mean, normally when I'm just going by what you're referring to in a contract is a specific piece of property, but if you don't have a way to refer to it, it would normally be designated either by its legal description or its PIN number, and you don't have
Yes.
one.
So, well, the way I break it up is, so
You
in the
could do it
sales
by the
contract-
lot number possibly, but
Well,
that's
yeah,
not
I
the
will
way
say
we're
part
referring to
of,
it.
part
Yeah.
of PIN 9121, blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
And then the lot descriptions are actually the easy part, because it's lots
Right.
20 and 21.
Right.
So lot 20 of,
yeah,
lot
of that
21.
PIN number, but
Yeah.
I still say they can change that PIN number for you anytime. They do that regularly for real estate transactions
so,
all the time.
okay. I mean, that would be nice if they could just assign it like that. The last time, I mean, I can't remember, somebody sent us some email correspondence about it, because it would be nice to have the final PIN numbers in there,
Mhm.
although I don't know how much it really impacts.
We can talk about that
Okay.
after. They do that all the time. Yeah.
You're right, there's a lot of weeds there. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. We're at the point now, we need a motion to either authorize the sale with commission approval, or to make suggested changes to the sale, or not approve the sale. So which motion would someone like to make?
I'd move that we forward this to council with the recommendation for approval on the sale.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward the ordinances authorizing the sale of the real estate discussed with a recommendation for approval. Any further comments, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay. I think that wraps up our agenda items for the evening. Is there any more business to come before the commission tonight? Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Meeting is now adjourned.